Interestingly enough, my next guest is somebody that I actually only formally met last year at a panel just like this. And I had always seen his work. I never really thought to ask him if he would come out. But I did, and I'm really glad I did because his art and storytelling is second to none. So please welcome Jerry Orbach. My next guest is somebody that I have tangentially known many times over the years, seeing him at conventions, but have never had really an opportunity to talk to or even interview because I had worked for many years as a journalist in this business. So I was really excited when I contacted him and I found out that he has a passion for teaching about comic books, and that's what he brings to his pages every day. Please give a warm welcome to Will Protashki. So first thing first, one of the things I try to do is I try to sort of warm things up a little bit with the same questions, and have each of the creators answer the questions. Then
you answer your cell phone.
Background music. Sorry about that. So let's just get started. First thing first, I'd like to find out about your working process. You know, you're a stay-at-home freelancer. You're a stay-at-home freelancer. You're all stay-at-home freelancers, so you get to make a choice of how you structure your day. Like, for example, I know some of Jerry's working habits because sometimes we talk. Can you talk about some of your working habits and how you sort of structure and set up your day as a freelancer, as a
freelancer? Well, before I had kids, it was a lot different. I mean, I was able to be a little bit freer with it, but I always try to set it up like a normal work schedule, because if you don't, the temptation to just go and mess around all day long is very seductive. And so I normally would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, eat breakfast or what have you, and start work there and try to put in, so by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, it's a 12-hour day. Yeah. And in the beginning, it was tougher because I wasn't able to draw quite as well, so it was a lot more frustrating. As the years went on, it got easier, because the more you do, obviously, the easier it gets. But you're always trying to learn, but especially back then, the learning curve was so great. But now that I have kids, it's markedly different. Now I get up at 4 every morning, and I work till 5 or 6, because the kids come home and want to play with dad. I have other things that I'm involved with too. So.
Do you work just weekdays or do you do weekends too?
No, I still work weekends. But it's definitely easier than it was. It gets easier as it goes along. I've been doing it for over 20 years now, and it's not nearly the, I'm not the angst-ridden artist who would, knock everything over in his studio if he couldn't get those fingers right on that hand, or I'd be looking at Jerry's stuff or Will's stuff and going, curse you, spitting on their work and not trying exactly what they do. So it's gotten better, but it's definitely, you have to treat it like a regular job, because if you don't, you get yourself into a lot of trouble.
Hey, Jerry?
I started my day with a Ron Garney doll and stamp pins. I also have a family, and I've always been a night person. I tend to work get most of my work done after 8 o'clock at night, and work till 5 in the morning. So I'm kind of on the opposite spectrum. So most of the neighbors, of course, think I'm unemployed. He's the guy who's always home.
He's in the window naked drawing.
You said again? What about that restraining order? But it just, the process for me is to, I can't really work in short spurts. For me, I have to work to get a long extended period of time to work, because there's like a warm-up that's every day. I feel like I have that warm-up where you forget everything you ever learned and you have to start over. And as Ron said, there's days where you've drawn a hand 15,000 times, but for some reason there'll be that day where you just can't figure it out, or you can't wrap your head around it.
So you smash your fingers so they look like drawing. So you say, there, I got it right.
I think you put something in front of it. You draw like a brick wall or something.
Oh, that's how you do it? I'm saving myself a lot of pain.
Ditto. I too have kids, 3 kids. So I'm kind of a cross between the two. Fortunately, my wife, she used to be a publicist for movies and records, so just like us, we're late night people. So a lot of times, up to 4 o'clock, she's still awake too, which keeps me going. But because I have the kids, 6, 10, and 21, I work until 5 or 7, drive the girls to school, come back. If it's a deadline, then I'll work until 9 or 9:30, then go to sleep until 1, or a little bit before the editors are leaving New York, and then do some last things and then have them in. If not, then I'll go to sleep till noon, try to wake up, 2 o'clock, pick up the girls, and then get to work. But because of my diabetes, I was diagnosed in 2001. I have to work in short spurts. I miss being able to just plow through. I can only plow through, I gotta conserve my plow through days. I can only plow through in the last week. I can get through like 4, maybe 5 days, doing maybe 2 to 3 pages a day if I have to, but I'm dead for a week after that. And for a week after that, I'm just a chauffeur bringing my wife to the market or something, or driving the kids to school or something like that. But yeah, I mean the main point is, I mean you just work when you can work.
It's interesting because my spurts actually work, even though I'm plowing through, my spurts work. Sorry. My spurts work throughout the day, but what happens is I can't really plow through one page and finish that one page. I have to do the pages in spurts because I tend to work on a page and then I have to get away from it because I can't see all the things I need to see until I come back to it. So what I tend to do is I'll work some on this page and I'll run into a wall on it and I know something's wrong but I can't figure it out. So I go on ahead, I work ahead, and I'll start working on others. So inevitably I end up working like a production on it. I'll have like 5 pages sitting at my table that I just keep going back and forth to. It also helps with the storytelling, but I definitely need to walk away from it. And it's amazing how it works, but for me, I walk away for an hour or 2 from that page, or even 4 hours from that page. If I go back to it, bang, I see it right away, what's wrong with it. But I can't see it when I'm that close to it, working all the way through the day on a certain page. It has to be broken up.
Do you guys find that throughout the days in between, you're like a zombie, just still thinking about the page and if you've laid it out right or this is the right angle and stuff? My wife hates it. I'm a zombie to her most of the time. She's going off telling a great story and going,
But she lets you drive her places, that's kind of scary. Oh, he hasn't had 3 hours sleep, oh, drive me to the...
No, see, that's why I got trusty backpack with little portable portfolio. So, I'm working in the car and she's at, Macy's or something.
I've had a situation where I've worked late to try to finish a page. Gotta finish a page because you're in a monthly deadline in most cases. And if you miss a day, you really can't make it up the next day in the way I work. So I'll just work, like maybe extra half hour beyond, get that page done. But then a lot of times I'll come back to it the next day after I've gone to bed, gotten up, get ready to start work again, and I go, holy crap, right? It's horrible. And it is good. Nowadays, a lot of times you have to send your pages electronically, like colorist is waiting on a page, so if you finished it, you send it to the company's FTP place or whatever, so it's gone. And then the next day you can look at your copy of it or you look at the page and you go, oh man, can I get that back? Because occasionally you'll do something that cover like that. You just had to go back. I worked into it for like 4 hours with Photoshop trying to save it and making it worse and worse. And it happens. How many years you've been doing it?
Plenty of times myself where I'll post something on the FTP and I know they know it's there, but
but I know the Colors doesn't have it yet, so I'll take the original, I'll redo it, silently rescan and take the other one off. So they think I'm done, but I'm actually still working on the book. You find little tricks to survive.
And that's why, like, I set my computer to do that screensaver where it looks for a folder, so I dump all my stuff in there, and it's constantly cycling, and I'm going, oh shit.
So, guys, at the end of a book and start of a new book, you're always introduced to a brand new script. You get that script in, you must have worked up some sort of working techniques. Can you talk about the working techniques you do, some of the things you do when you first get that fresh script in, and how you approach it to start your work?
Well, let's see, I get the script and I get naked.
Good name.
What time did you learn that from?
I really don't do that. It sounds like fun, maybe. Sometimes, you know, honestly, I kind of vacillate with how I approach the scripts, you know. I tend to not read so far ahead because then I start to think about what I have to, you know. If I know on page 13, there's a page which says, okay, Captain America faces an army of 6,000 soldiers, you know, the last thing I want to be thinking about as I'm trying to do the previous pages is that. So I tend to scan it over, I know the general gist, and then I ease into it, and then I'll read the whole thing as I go along, but I don't sit there and read anything for the most part, because I've gone over with the writer most of the time anyway, and I know what's going to happen, but, you know, as far as the details and stuff, I save that for pulling my hair out the day it has to happen.
I tend to, when I'm finished with one job, I like if you can get a script before you're done with the previous one, it's always good to read it. And I just tend to read it a couple of times. And I don't even touch it, do anything with it until I absolutely have to. But you want to try to commit at least, maybe a full script is really tough. But with a plot style, if you, like what Ron said, I've done that where you read part of the plot, and then you start drawing it, and then you realize that when you've got 8 pages done, on page 10, it says, you know, this character that you introduced on page 1 is suddenly described differently. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a mermaid, you know? What do I do? So you have to, definitely you have to be careful with that.
Well, that's why I say I scan it first, because now I'm pretty good at it. I don't really run into too many problems. But, you know, as far as just sitting there and reading the whole thing all the way through, I tend to ease my way through. I'll read all of it, but it takes like a week or so as I'm starting to work on it, where I actually commit to really paying attention to all that stuff. Well, it sounds weird, but it works for me. I don't read it at all, I just go work.
Draw it phonetically.
Just feel letters, to make sure I don't get intimidated.
That's not the page. Add up the total number of characters.
Because I know I'm going to leave it all out. That's why if it calls for, you know, they're on a train, I tend to draw a jet plane or something instead. I actually saw that happen to Mark Link one time. He pulls me over. I was over his house. And he pulls me into his studio. He says, "Take a look at this." And it was some graphic image at the time. No, it wasn't. But he read the script. He let me read the script, and it was like, you know, something like this guy is riding on the train, and he gets off the train at the station, blah blah blah. And the page just shows a big head with sky behind it.